Si vols tancar una mica més, eh?
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and I tell you what, we've got a big race in prospect. What a series of qualifying sessions we had. My name is, of course, George Morgan. I'm here to present to you the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, Round 2, Race 1, just around the corner here. We've just come off the back of the qualifying session for it, and what a lap by Andrea Kimi Antonelli to secure pole position after landing a heavy blow, 136.134, that would grant him the top spot heading into this first race of this weekend. We are here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, essentially racing around the motorcycle Grand Prix layout, but of course it now becomes the single-seater Grand Prix layout here for this year now as well, and taking out that final chicane, the chicane RACC, making all the difference, now making it one long corner, opening it up just to 14 corners as opposed to the 16 that it used to be. Broke ground back on the 24th of February 1989 and opened up again on the 10th of September 1991. It would consequently then hold the opening event of the Olympic Games in 1992, and that of course being the time trial cycling event, which was essentially using the circuit as its start-finish line. Since then, the start-finish line here at this very circuit has brought to you the Spanish Grand Prix here for you in Formula 1, but it also presents you to the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, and has done so now for a considerable amount of time. This championship now that we've seen flourish time and time again, introducing the greatest stars you'll see in the world of sim racing, in the world of racing. It's certainly here in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, gracing you with the presence of the likes of Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who is your pole sitter heading into this first race of the weekend. And of course, here at Montemelo, we're looking forward to seeing whether he can land a huge blow and take his first race win of the championship and this season as well to boot. The cars are currently making their way into the pit lane again, getting set to obviously line themselves up onto their grid spots as well. The team's all out there with the tyres too. But the story was, or certainly the story went, that Andrea Kimi Antonelli would nail in a fastest lap, as I alluded to, just fending off the likes of Tim Tramnitz, who went fastest in his group, that of course being Group B, but it would be Antonelli, of course, getting the better time that would certainly advance his cause, taking pole heading into this round. Tramnitz then in second place, still on the front row, and has a great chance of taking the early lead and the early advantage. In behind, though, plenty of other tasty characters. Kaz Havercourt, who he himself taking a race win at the very start of the season. I spoke to Danielle Gilles heading into this one. She is very confident, certainly in behalf of her team. Obviously, Van Amersfoort have been a prominent force in the world of Freca. Obviously, Kaz Havercourt's been part of that and has essentially been a very reliable pair of hands behind the wheel as well. Lorenzo Flusha lines up alongside him. He, of course, also racing for Prema. Now, Prema have got essentially all three cars in the midst of the top 11 here. Rafael Camara is down in 11th place as well, just in behind Nikhil Bora. Delano Van Hoff as well in P9. Joshua Dufek as well in 8th. Matteo Capietto as well in the top 7. Sami Megatune also in 6th as well, off the back of that sensational Test 2 where they went 50 minutes around the track and set a fastest time of 1:36.361. And he has since been very consistent pace-wise right through the weekend. And we look forward to seeing whether he can enlist certainly some superior laps and maybe even make some really vital moves. Obviously still plenty to chase for. Early start for the championship. Obviously only in round 2. We've only had the one round at Imola. Of course, as I said before, the race wins go into that of Kaz Havercourt, and then of course as well the likes of Martinez Stenshorn as well, who I spoke with earlier on, and despite not crossing the line, and he alluded to that fact as well, obviously winning under the conditions that are out on track after a very chaotic Imola race, still looking to try and grasp his best form, and no doubt he does have it. Remember, not forgetting him managing to get that pole lap to place himself on the front row of the grid in order to try and line himself up a race win, and he certainly did deliver that as well. The question is, can he bring that form back and join his fellow RACGP teammate Tim Tramnitz up at the sharp end? We'll only have to wait and see, and certainly after 30 minutes plus one lap we will be able to tell you, folks. Obviously here, as I alluded to, the corners being 14 of them, plenty of racing to be had here. And naturally, battles aplenty. There has been murmurings in the paddock of wet conditions too. Clouds have been shuffling over and they look relatively dark. There's a couple of teams I know doing a rain dance out there. I went past the Monolite Garage. They're hoping that there'll be some rain after a tricky qualifying session this time around. They're going to be looking to try and turn things around. They've got Mashkio down in 30th place, and they're going to hope that he can rise his way up through the field. Also interested to find out what goes on in terms of the Santaloc racing team, obviously in their debut season here in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, and looking to try and grasp obviously a very, very positive start to their campaign. Obviously come into this one with only 2 drivers, but still nonetheless give them every chance. And of course in their debut season with the likes of Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. and Lucas Medina behind the wheel, it'll be interesting to see what they can enlist. And we have heard rumours as well from the garage that there is going to be a 3rd driver when we go racing at Hungaroring next time out on the 17th to 18th of June. As to who that is yet, we don't know, so we'll have to stay tuned for that news as soon as it comes through. But it will be interesting to see what they do enlist in terms of their 3-car lineup, and we'll look forward to that. But to tell you what, folks, we've got a mouth-watering prospect, as I said. Antonelli on top alongside Tim Tramnitz, front row of the grid, and both drivers essentially taking the top times in both sessions. Of course, Q1 and Q2, Group A and Group B are plenty. They topped both of them, and they're going to be swapping Ps1 and Ps2 when of course, we go racing tomorrow for race 2 at 13 minutes past 10, where once again we will go racing for 30 minutes plus 1 lap there too. Of course, the push-to-pass system still very much in full force this season, and it's up to the drivers as to how they execute it. Of course, it's very much a strategy test as well as pure pace. Obviously, you can unlock as much time as you like heading through the apexes, but it gives you a little extra help when you're heading down those long straights, and you can open up that door and make the moves as appropriate. Here this weekend, obviously this essentially is being held during the 6 Horas de Barcelona, essentially a revival show. And we, of course, bringing you that broadcast as part of this too. And indeed, it certainly is going to be the case that we've got the spectators coming in thick and fast, grandstands flocked with people here, and at this 140,000 capacity circuit that we have in front of you. 14 corners, as I said. Variances in terms of speed too. We have got some fast speed and not to mention some slow speed corners, a little in between as well, but also a very long straight, one of the longest straights you'll see in this championship this season, and we look forward to seeing who can embrace it, utilize that push to pass. That of course being the optimal place to do it. Try and find the inside line through turns 1 and 2. That will certainly be the optimal time to use it. There you can see Andrea Kimi Antonelli currently sat in his seat now. Of course, Prema hold a lot of stock in this young man, Mercedes Academy driver, and looking to try and further his prospects after a hellacious run in Italian F4 last season, where he would pick up a plethora of results as well, and has certainly become one of the great rising stars that we've come to expect up at the sharp end too. And there you can see as well, lined up alongside him, is Tim Tramnitz. That's his RHGP car. Sat second on the grid, front row, and ahead of Kaz Havercourt as we now pan across. There he is, just getting himself set in the rig. Certainly as they get sorted out. Obviously some final adjustments being made to the car. And the German will be setting sail down through towards turn 1 as soon as the lights go out. Obviously he's going to have a battle on his hands. It's Tramnitz v Antonelli heading down towards turn 1. And I know he has that on his mind. He knows what he's capable of. Very experienced behind the wheel and has been here before in this championship. And now is definitely considered one of the front runners and looking to consolidate what has to be said, a wonderful visit in qualifying. Of course, as I said, we'll feature on pole tomorrow. Kaz Havercourt is, of course, behind him too. Lorenzo Fluxa, or Flusha, should I say, in behind as well on the same row as Havercourt. Driving for Prema Racing. They're currently occupying 2 cars at the top 4. And there we currently see Van Amersfoort's Kaz Havercourt sat on the grid, waiting to get started. As I said, some last words as well with the engineers. Of course, they're going to be masterminding the strategy. And while it may not necessarily be a strategic strategy in terms of pit stops, obviously that isn't applied here in the World of Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, but there is matters such as tyre conservation, not to mention utilisation of the push-to-pass system. There is obviously times when you'll use it and times when you can't, and you can obviously expire the use of it as well. It's up to the drivers to use it as they see fit, and obviously there's 2 straights that can really pick your spot at. Of course, you come out of Campsa as well as the long home straight out of New Holland down through towards Elf Curve. You've got the opportunity heading around turn 9 where you take the descent down towards Lakea Bend, of course, and then whipping through. If you get that inside line out of turn 10, there's a good chance you can make that necessary move. As we now take a look at Lorenzo Flusha's car, also getting set and ready to go, just in behind his teammate. Of course, Andrea Kimi Antonelli. And also we got Rafael Camara lining up on the grid as well. 3 cars I alluded to from Prema in the top 11. We'll have to see what they can do, obviously, in terms of grasping more points. And coming into the weekend, Prema currently second in the championship. RSGP came into this one with 61 points and leading the way. Prema just behind them as well. Van Amersfoort as well in third, continuing in the strong vein after a brilliant performance from Kaz Havercourt in our last round at Imola. As I said, it was a very chaotic round as well. Lots of incidents, quite a few DNFs. And obviously Tim Tramnitz was one of them, in fact, in race 2. Certainly wasn't an ideal run for him. Roman Belinsky, Michael Belov, as well as Lorenzo Flusha and Joshua Dirksen, Alessandro Giusti, Andrea Kimi Antonelli even, and Rafael Camara and Josh Dufek. So coming out of that particular round, these drivers instantly responding, and already 2 of them hitting the front row of the grid yet again this time. And obviously Antonelli doesn't hold a lot of it, doesn't hold a lot of gratitude, I think, over what happened in qualifying 2. Certainly the engine didn't help him as well heading into the race, and he's looking to try and sort of turn his fortunes around, and I think he's certainly on the precipice of doing just that. Quite a few feel-good stories, though, including that of Martinius Stenshorn, who, as I said before, leading rookie in this field so far in terms of this lineup, 13th on the grid. And as I said, taking the victory whilst it was under not necessarily cross the finish line conditions, it still allowed him to take home that plethora of points, give himself the best chance he could have wished for. And for a rookie at this stage, considered a rookie in this championship, that certainly does go a long way, certainly if you're trying to chase for the best results. And once again, clearing the likes of Lawrence Van Hoopen in behind, Micah Belov, as well as Victor Bernier as well. Further down, the next rookie is, of course, Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. And I've just seen, of course, Emerson Fittipaldi as well as his father also in the paddock as well. Just really giving sort of that essence of support and experience to Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. As we're now seeing car number 13, that being Josh Dufek, lining up on the grid as well. And the race itself consisting of 30 minutes plus 1 lap. So as soon as that time is up, they'll have 1 additional lap to take before they then cross the start-finish line for the final time. And we'll find out as to who is going to take the race win. Already, we see the crews now leaving the track. And very shortly, the cars will be getting underway. Obviously, we've got the formation lap to come as well. And as you can see from the lights, around 3 minutes, obviously, is how long we'll be generally waiting for. That is generally the period. Oh, we've just seen the 1 icon come out now. So already firing up, not wasting any time here. And they will certainly get set and introduce that first formation lap before we then go racing here at Spain. But a wonderful prospect certainly here in order. And Santiago Ramos also having a great start. RPM on an upwards trajectory at the moment. 2 cars in the top 10. The likes of Santiago Ramos, Matteo Capietto as well, right up there and fighting. Can they bring home some big points? Easily recognizable livery. It's one of the only green cars in the field on this grid. In fact, they're in tandem of one another. As we're now getting the updated boards now coming down to the final moments before the cars get underway, and they'll then proceed to warm up their tyres before the race getaway. But sit tight, folks, because now we have green light conditions, and Andrea Kimi Antonelli takes them on the initial formation lap period. Warming up those tyres, getting set for the start of this race, very integral. Whilst it's not necessarily a racing lap, sometimes the formation lap can have such a dramatic effect on how well the cars perform out on circuit. Not forgetting what we saw in qualifying, how much it mattered in terms of the delta time as well, improving on those runs. We alluded to that obviously during the red flag conditions that we had in qualifying. The fact that the rubber cools down so much when you come into the pit lane, and then you have to go back out again and essentially reheat those tyres, get them back into a window that is obviously beneficial to yourself as a driver. But heading through now the first sector, there we see the Premas make their way on through. And, just seeing there as well, making his way through, Rafael Camara in 11th place. He, of course, will also be looking to make some early gains. They now head through sector 2. This will be another overtaking opportunity. If you can go late on the brakes and you're right behind your opponent, obviously the competitor ahead of you, you can obviously open up the door heading through towards the seat curve, and then on the outset maybe challenge heading up through berth. We've seen that a few times in the past from various different single-seater campaigns, including that of Formula Regional. No doubt we'll see perhaps some more gaining blows. At the end of the day, you've got to go for it here. Of course, the start of the championship could make all the difference when it comes to the end. Every race counts. We've got such a hedge calendar in this championship too, with Hungaroring coming up after this one, Spa-Francorchamps on the 30th to the 1st of July. Mugello comes up on the 8th to the 9th of July as well, with the Castellet after that on the 22nd and 23rd. Then a trip to Red Bull Ring, Monza, Zandvoort, and then for the first time in Formula Regional European Championship history, they go racing at Hockenheim as well. So that's going to be a thriller, certainly, to end off a dramatic season. And obviously plenty of cars looking to follow in the footsteps, plenty of drivers looking to follow in the footsteps, the likes of Dino Beganovic, who went on to take the championship last season and has now since graduated to Formula 3, along with some of the other greats such as Gabriele Bortoleto, who's had an absolutely storming start to his campaign as well. As we now await the cars to make their way through the final corner too. Obviously looking forward to seeing who comes out on top. As you can see, the marshals on the side just waving the yellow flags. Obviously, we are currently under the formation lap conditions. Just really is a case of just getting that installation lap in place, get the tyres ready, get the cars ready. Last minute chat with the engineers on the radio as well. And now heading down through towards the grid spaces. And you can just see them just spinning the tyres, high revving the engines, just making sure they can get that last little bit of heat in there before the lights go out. Andrea Kimi Antonelli lining up on his grid spot. Alongside him is, of course, Tim Tramnitz for RACE-GP. Further back in behind them, Kaz Havercourt, Lorenzo Fluscher, the two RPMs as well, just in behind Santiago Ramos, as well as Matteo Capietto, Sami Megatunif splitting the pair with Joshua Dufek in behind as well. Could we be seeing something magical here in race one, here at Barcelona, as we now await for the last few cars to make their way up to their grid spots? The crowd's all watching on here at Barcelona-Catalunya. And here in the grandstands too, as the marshals now look to get into place. We can see them all running up the grid order. They've got flags at the ready. As soon as they wave green, we've got the pace cars coming up in behind as well. So brace yourself, folks. We're going to wait now for the green flags to wave and the lights to go red. Green flags now being waved. Here come the lights. And it's pedal to the metal, and it is go, 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 go. It's certainly they get away well indeed. Antonelli gets away certainly very quickly. Further in behind as well, Tim Tramnitz trying to get a gain as well. Kaz Havercourt in the mix. Tramnitz has got Antonelli. Tramnitz with a superior start now, and Antonelli's in trouble because here comes Havercourt now. Side by side now through turns 1 and 2. They raid wheel to wheel as they head through now out of Elf Curve. Then they got red over there yet to come. It's Tramnitz leading though. Look at the RPMs making their way up as well. That, of course, being the likes of Santiago Ramos, Matteo Capietto as well is up there too. But Tramnitz, Tim Tramnitz, getting that early launch as they now sort themselves out. There's a bit of a gathering making their way down through Dorsey Curve. We've got a yellow flag. A yellow flag has been called. And not sure whether there's going to be a safety car, but it certainly is looking busy out there. You can just see further back. That, of course, being that of the Van Amersfoort car making its way through as we now see them all go in 2 by 2, near enough Noah's Ark. Just look at how many cars there are as they make their way through Verth Curve. They're then going to whip through the next right-hander at Capsa as well. A little bit of side-by-side action there in the mid-pack as we're there seeing, of course, car number 29 as I look at it on our screen, and that is, of course, Enzo Scionti, who's had obviously a very busy weekend, ending up in the gravel trap in qualifying earlier on as well today. But Tim Tramnitz with the early advantage. Andrea Kimi Antonelli down there as well, and there is the cause of the yellow flag. Oh dearie me, some remonstrations there between the two, and that looks like, could that be 2 MP Motorsport cars? I think it might be, you know, as we look here at this point. That is Delano Van 't Hoff, and not to mention as well, out of the race looks to be car number 15, that of course being Sami Megatunif. It is indeed 2 MP Motorsport cars out of the race and into the gravel trap, and a safety car has officially been called. So the yellow flag has just been turned into a full course yellow. We've got the safety car coming out on track. Dramatic scenes here at the start here at Barcelona. We did see them all go in side by side. There was a swarm of them. It was like a wasp, certainly a beehive, as they made their way heading through the right-hander at Repsol. Now they've got to get themselves back down into an orderly fashion as we now wait for the restart. And there's the two cars that have certainly been caught heading through the middle sector as such. I think that's coming out of Verth Curve as well. So there is a downhill slope. Looks like it's going down the hill here at this point. We're just seeing the cars now filter on past. Clear suspension damage on Delano Van Toff's car there. So obviously some contact made on that side. But yes, I'm sure there's going to be some words after in the MP Motorsport Garage between the two drivers. Less than ideal. And what that does mean is now that there's only Victor Bernier essentially representing the team here this time. So it's all on his shoulders as we now await the drivers to obviously make their way around. But obviously devastation, not ideal, certainly for the start of this race. And I'm sure there'll be a few unhappy faces at MP Motorsport, but I tell you where there will not be unhappy faces. That's going to be, of course, Tim Tramnitz leading the way and essentially rewriting the wrong, should we say, from race 2 when we went racing at Imola last time out, and really capitalising off the start as well, getting ahead of Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Kaz Havercourt in 3rd place, Lorenzo Fluscia in 4th as well, Matteo Capietto having a good start too. But nevertheless, Kaz Havercourt still there again, and alluded to the fact of how solid he is behind the wheel. And certainly speaking to Daniel Gilles, he is of course a very solid pair of hands behind the wheel. And obviously in the safety car conditions now, I mean, Tramnitz will look to try and pursue this. Doesn't want obviously the safety car to certainly disturb his train of thought. Obviously it's all about focus when it comes to driving these cars, maximising your opportunities out on circuit. And certainly with Andrea Kimi Antonelli breathing down your neck, obviously given his reputation, obviously you'd much rather get the race in the bag. And obviously the best way to go about it is just fully focusing on the race without any unnecessary interruptions. But nevertheless, we are under the safety car ruling. Lorenzo Fluscia in behind as well, Matteo Capietto in 5th, Joshua Dupet in 6th, Nikhil Bora having a good start as well in 7th place for Trident, and currently makes the highest Trident car, Martinia Stenshawn as well, up into 8th as well, into the top 10, and still leading the rookie proceedings. And further back, Rafael Camara has obviously lost a couple of places too. He's down to 13th. There we see the Marshall vehicles making their way through. You just see them strapping them up. They're going to have to drag them out at this stage, and that can prove to be a little tricky. So you can just see it very heavily buried in the gravel trap. So while that's ongoing, obviously it's not going to end the safety car proceedings anytime soon. So we're going to have to sit tight. And obviously, what does that do to the rubber? We alluded to what that might do, of course, in qualifying. We saw obviously how the lap times were affected on when the cars left, and again that same principle arises here when you're behind the pace car, and naturally you have to spend a little bit of time trying to get the heat back into those tyres. But certainly a very busy start to this race, and we wouldn't expect anything less, certainly given the championship and the way it's certainly delivered fascinating races in the past. And now Tim Tramnitz, we have got a red flag, that is confirmed. We've just had a red flag delivered here in this session, so the cars will now come into the pit lane. Obviously the severity of the incident a little bit higher this time, and naturally I think it's going to take a little bit more marshal intervention for them to remove the cars and see them waving. Might even be a crane involved here. We'll have to wait and see. Just see the trucks are just moving away, and obviously not enough to basically get the cars out of trouble here. But not a sight you want to see if you're MP Motorsport, to say the least. And Delano Van Hoff as well as Sami Megatunif are going to be having some words afterwards. I can imagine they'll assess the situation, no doubt, with the onboard footage, not to mention the data as well. And they'll find out what went wrong. But peeling into the garage, and Tim Tramnitz will lead them through with Antonelli in 2nd, Havercourt in 3rd as well. Reasonable start for Roman Belinsky too, currently sat in 16th ahead of Charlie Wirtz. Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. now down to 3rd fastest rookie at this stage, with Alessandro Giusti making some ground up into 14th too. So some good showing certainly from him as far as he's concerned. And Matthias Zagazzetta as well, looking to try and gain a few places. And we'll certainly be looking to continue his raw form. Is now up to 15th place, and he actually started in what looks to be 22nd, so he's made such a real gain, has to be said. Credit to Matthias Zagazzetta, as we can now see the car being pulled away. So they have made some inroads using the 4x4 and just trying to take it away from the gravel trap, and obviously trying to clear it out of danger just so they can get racing back underway. Obviously don't want to delay it too long, but the longer the cars stay in, and the threat of rain, I did signify it before, we spoke about it previously. What is that going to do? Should that rear its ugly head? Obviously there was a couple of teams, as I alluded to, that were obviously very keen for the wet weather to come out. I obviously alluded to the fact that Monolite were hoping for some rain as well. Could be the case that others are too, if they're looking to gain a few places. As we can now see, there is the crane out on track. So procedure being followed here in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. But yeah, what a start, certainly. And I have to tell you, obviously the marshals working exceptionally hard, as they always do, to obviously try and get racing back underway. Obviously, it's proving to be a little bit tricky. Obviously, with the suspension damage on the car, makes it very tricky to maneuver, certainly out of that gravel. And they're going to need a little bit more help than that. There you could see the people in the grandstands watching on. There is, of course, Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Alludes to the fact that he is, of course, a superstar in the world of Italian F4. And certainly did give it everything. Has since taken his hand to Italian GT Sprint as well. Has taken part in GT racing. Is a race winner as well in GTs for AKM Motorsport. Of course, his father is obviously a keen GT man, and we have seen him compete over the time as well. And certainly that lineage in racing very much applies here. And has since garnered Andrea Kimi Antonelli a seat, certainly in the Mercedes Academy. He's not the only one to have an Academy seat, though, quite a few, but including that of Marcus Ammond, who is also part of the Sauber Academy team, and features here as well. And, he's going to be looking to try and bring his best results too. And looking to try and raise the stakes for himself. Currently sat in P26, be looking to try and raise himself off that particular order. But you certainly wouldn't want to count him out. He's a very, very capable talent behind the wheel, and has claimed podiums before as well, including that of F4 in Germany, not to mention Italian F4 as well, where he's taken part. And I'm sure he's going to look to try and raise himself up the field. Might also be looking for that little bit of rain too while we're under these red flag conditions. Of course, I'm just looking outside my commentary box window, and there are plenty of clouds in the sky, but not necessarily enough concern to certainly suggest any rainfall. In terms of the on-track activities right now, it's 26 degrees out on circuit, so relatively standard, I would say. Given where we are right now. The temperature in the air currently sits at 18 degrees. And I'm just taking a look at the humidity. Obviously, no concerns of wind. Currently sits at 1 kilometre per hour. So certainly nothing to suggest that we're going to have anything on the slightly wet side on this occasion. Plenty of cars, though, waiting to get out. You can just see there the lights flashing as they currently sit on standby in the pit lane. Very soon, I'm sure they'll take to the pit escape as the marshals go to work. There you can see them just carrying the car. That, of course, belonging to Delano Van Hoff. Just basically try to put it somewhere safe off the track, just so the drivers can get back underway again. You can see in the distance as well, the car belonging to Sami Megatunev currently sat just off the circuit as well, behind the barriers that are throughout this circuit. There is the safety car as well. And, looking to get ourselves back underway. A very, very busy paddock here this weekend with all sorts happening. The public obviously enjoying what they're seeing as well, and no doubt they're enjoying this with the fight that we have on course in this championship. It's been a massive rise, certainly for the likes of Tim Tramnitz, as I said, who's raced here last season. He's now going to be looking to try and turn his fortunes upwards, and he's going about it in a very confident manner as well. Has recently raced as well in the world of Euro Formula Open, and returning here to Formula Regional. I spoke to him about that experience at Euro Formula, and he just said, I needed more on-track experience, just a little bit of extra experience, just that little bit extra behind the wheel of a car, just to give me a little bit more. And it's definitely paying off, I would say. Obviously, given that extra time, You know, no doubt, obviously different chassis to what you see here in this particular championship. Of course, they use the Tartus here, but nevertheless, racing is racing. Tim Tramnitz might yet utilise that to his best advantage. As I said before, featured for Trident last season, and 20 races with them, and is now currently sat here in the car for R-Race GP. And you can just see there, as you can see, the skies are definitely darkened here. Obviously, we are quite late in the day, but still considered the mid-spring summer season. And the driver's now getting set to send it outwards as Kaz Havercourt just sat in behind the wheel too. No doubt, wonder what he's feeling right now as we get away from his engineer. Mechanic alongside him too. No doubt having a few last words of wisdom before they go straight back out again. And Van Amersfoort be looking to bring their best to this weekend too. 39 points. They came in third in the championship after Imola. Great start for Havercourt. As I said, went on to take the race win at Imola race 2. And has been quick, relatively quick all weekend as well, qualifying essentially third on this grid order. And we'll look to continue that rampant form. And, it's no stranger to podiums as well. He has achieved them in the past, and certainly here in the Formula Regional European Championship, being at Van Amersfoort too, securing 2 wins and 5 podiums as well, not to mention a pole position, finishing 5th in last season's championship. Looking to come back again and try and replicate his best. And we all know he's very much capable of it as well. Obviously did not necessarily get the best of starts at that time. Obviously might have fancied attacking Antonelli at the start. Of course, Tramnitz managing to get the upper hand virtually straight away and covering off that inside, essentially keeping Antonelli behind him. You could clearly see that was the decisive decision there for Tramnitz to certainly make that move and just capitalise off a good start. And that just goes to show how much certainly the preparation and how much hard work the engineers put in order to maximise what their cars are able to do. And they all work behind the scenes, making sure the setup's correct. And that all stems from the very beginning of the weekend when they go out for testing and practice. Of course, in collective test 1, Santiago Ramos was the fastest man out on track with a 1:37.153, and he's since shown some really impressive pace as well, and looked very prominent as well when we were in qualifying earlier on this morning, and has once again displayed certainly that pace again out of practice, but still it hasn't been necessarily, should we say, the ideal race start. Of course, we have seen his teammate Matteo Capietto still up in the mix, currently sits in 5th place. And in accordance to the timing screen here, Adam Fitzgerald moving up as well for RPM to 27th spot as well. So sit tight, folks. We will, of course, be bringing you action of the race as soon as it gets back underway. Obviously, the marshal's still working hard on clearing the track, making sure we're back to racing conditions. But nevertheless, a very busy start. There's Lorenzo Flusha, and also a very experienced head in the world of Formula Regional. This time in the seat for Prema, off the back of racing for R-Race GP, ironically, last season as well as a rookie. And you can see as well the car in behind that, of course, being car 85 on the grid, getting set to go back out, that being Matteo Capietto, who certainly capitalised off his race start, the Frenchman. And waiting patiently to get back out onto the track. Obviously, the drivers would much rather be getting stuck into this, you can imagine, obviously, just to get their heads down, get racing. But naturally, procedure has to be followed at this point. You can just see there, very, very busy paddock. A lot of the pit crews now essentially managing their cars, a few of them moving away as well, as we await for news of the red flag being essentially ended. I can see across the circuit that as far as I can see from here, there's not necessarily any marshal activity. I could just barely see, but we did of course see the crane move it away from the track. So as long as they get it into a safe distance and clear it out the way of any what would be considered racing action, we can then of course see the flags go green once again. The cars can then make their way out onto the circuit to commence or recommence once again race 1 here of the weekend here in round 2 at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. But looking back as well, you have to give RPM all the credit for achieving what they have done. Obviously, it hasn't necessarily been easy, obviously, given the fact that the championship itself is so prominent now, and we've just seen that the cars are now getting back underway. The safety car now making its way out onto the circuit. As I said, it's definitely a series that is excessively prominent, given the fact that they've got the interest coming in from Formula 2 and Formula 3 teams, the likes of Prema, that have obviously taken it very, very seriously in terms of driver development, the likes of Arden, ART, and many others, MP Motorsport, of course, that have been part of it, and various others too. But it's great to have, obviously, them all contending against one another. The likes of RHGP got speaking to them as well, and they alluded to the fact of how the likes of Pierre Gasly came up through, and not to mention Gabriel Bortoleto, who has since gone on to do great things in Formula 3. And they could be on the precipice of doing great things here with Tim Tramnitz too, currently holds on to the lead of the race. So let's see whether he can convert this into a race win as well and bounce back after the hardships of race 2. But the cars now making their way out on the track. Safety car now out and about, and the timer is back underway, as we can see. 22 minutes and 50 still to go, plus one lap, of course. And, it'll take us right down to the checkered flag as well, where we will crown our first winner of the weekend as well. The cars now look to get themselves set and ready to go, an opportune time to get those tyres reheated. As I said before, whilst there isn't necessarily pit stops and things of that nature, there is still strategical play in the use of the push to pass, and also ensuring that you manage the tyres. Those tyres provided by Pirelli, as they have done for the last few seasons here at the Formula Regional European Championship. As the safety car now makes its way down through towards the left-hander at Lakea. Vastly more open than what it used to be, of course. Remember, it used to be a stagnant 90-degree left before you then make your way up through Bank Sambadel and then heading through towards Europe Car as well, before you then venture through New Holland, where it used to be the chicane RACC, but it's since been removed. And speaking to various teams, I think, and also I think the fans alike, they love to see single-seater racing with that chicane removed. I think it's obviously a positive step, given the way the racing is certainly gone, certainly in the world of single-seaters, as the safety car takes a pass down the long straight. And the car's following in hot pursuit as well. Tim Tramnitz furiously warming up those tyres as well. And in behind, you can just see more and more of them heading down the long straight. A big start is what's needed, of course, when the safety car comes in. And hopefully we should see that happen very, very soon. Coming down to the final 21 minutes of action. Still plenty more time to enlist the battles as well as they make their way through Renault Curve. Then, of course, they got Repsol after this one, before they then trickle down towards the seat and then head towards Verth. Many a testing corner. Sector 2 doesn't really offer too much in the way of overtaking, but nevertheless, you can then utilise turn 9 to your advantage as well. Some drivers may choose to go side by side out of Verth Curve, depending on what kind of exit you get out of turn 7 and 8. And then open up the push to pass, heading out of turn 9 down the straight towards turn 10, where you can be brave and leave it late on the brakes, but to your own detriment, or at own risk, I should say, when whipping through there. It can certainly land you in trouble if you are too late, and you can certainly overrun. But then, of course, you have Bank Sambadel, the upward curve, and then round Europe Car before then dipping through New Holland to commence yet another lap. And there we can see the safety car just leading them on through and getting them set to go racing yet again. We'll look forward to seeing that as well, as we see them now furiously warming them up. And, there's car number 10 that we're currently seeing on our screen as well, Joshua Dirksen, the Paraguayan, who's back again this season too. Of course, has been part of the fold at Arden for quite some time. Of course, partnering up the likes of Tom Leben and Levante Ravesh as well, who's lining up alongside him too. Of course, the Hungarian, 18 years of age. Joshua Dirksen, 19 years old, and from Paraguay with new youngster Tom Leben, 17-year-old Brit from who was certainly given everything in the likes of GB3, taking part also in Ginetta Juniors, as I alluded to prior. And, trying to enlist himself off the bottom. Didn't have the most ideal qualifying session. Currently sits in 28th place. Did actually manage to gain a couple of places past Mashkio and Niels Kuhlen. And certainly we'll look to envisage to get more as we get back underway and put pedal to the metal here for the second time here at Barcelona, and still Right now it's Tim Tramnitz leading the way. There you see further back as well, some movement in behind. There we can see the RPM of Matteo Capietto now, looking to try and attack that of Lorenzo Fluscia as they headed towards turn 1. It is still Tramnitz in front. There we see some side-by-sides as well as they head up through the field now. Looks to be that an MP Motorsport, that of course being the sole one left, Victor Bernier, trying to make some big moves. They now peel through now the next right, heading out of Renault, down through towards Repsol. It's Tramnitz leading. There you can see Antonelli there further back as well, a little twitch then further back as we saw what looked to be, I think that was a Van Amersfoort car just getting itself a little out of shape, chasing after Matteo Capietto. It certainly is, and that of course belonging to that of Joshua Dufek, who has gone hunting, as we now see him on our screens making his way through the left-hander, heading out of the seat. They've now got first curve now as well, defending again Capietto, who's tried to avoid any sort of onslaught here given by that of the car behind him. That of course being the Van Amersfoort that is now looking like it's chasing the tail of the RPM car as it whips through the very, very fast Kamsa bend. You can near enough take this one flat out. There you can see as well the other RPM getting in the mix too. So we can now see car number 27, that of course belonging to Kaz Havercourt, looking to advance his proceedings. But certainly isn't ideal right now, currently sat with a little gap to that of Antonelli just ahead of him as well, and he's got Lorenzo Fluscia for company. As we see there, Matteo Capietto is more concerned about defending against that of Joshua Dufek rather than going for that attack at the very start as they whip through the very, very fast right-hander heading out of New Holland once again. You can just see them there in tandem, nose to tail. The gap's thinner than a fly's eyelash. They'll sprint down through towards no less turn 1. There you can see them now. Obviously further back, the RPM under a little bit of jeopardy, goes defensive yet again, and there, a little move, a little twitch. Joshua Dufek looking to send it, heading through turns 1 and 2, can't find the answer as they head now through the right-hander out of Renault curve before then hitting Repsol as they make their way down through towards turn 4 and entering sector 2 proper. It's still Tramnitz who has held his own and has done magnificently well since the start of this race, even since the restart too, keeping Antonelli behind him here. And I get the feeling this is a battle we're going to see rage on right through the season, and what a mouth-watering clash it is too as well. There we're seeing Joshua Dufek, who's been giving Matteo Capietto a few headaches. Also alluding to that heading down the long straight as well. So we can now see Kaz Havercourt sprinting up the hill. Tramnitz still though holding his own, and further back Kaz Havercourt just keeping away Lorenzo Fluscia. The gap between them at the moment, 1.7 seconds to the leader, that of Kaz Havercourt to Tramnitz. But you'll look to try and rein that in a little tighter as they now head through now the very, very tight Lakea bend before venturing up through Bank San Badal. Here you see them taking it now. You've got the grandstands there littered throughout this circuit where the public could watch the proceedings unfold. There you can see as well, once again, Joshua Dufek looking to get closer and closer as the cars now whip through the final segments of corners here. The very, very fast right heading out of New Holland, once again stretching down the straight. And once again, it looks like Antonelli certainly is gapping the car behind him, getting close to the likes of Tim Tramnitz too. You see Havercourt there in the distance. That gap definitely has sprung out just that little bit. Capietto looking very strong too. At the obviously at the extent of that, we've got a little fight happening further down as well as they come together yet again. That's Michael Belov trying to defend his position against the likes of Lawrence Van Hoopen, who's giving him something to think about heading through turns 1 and 2. Couldn't quite get the move done, but Van Hoopen certainly will not be finished with his certainly his presence, his attack there on that of Michael Belov. As the two come together, that of course being the G4 racing of Michael Belov and the ART Grand Prix of Lawrence Van Hoopen, as they now head their way down through towards the next left, that Birth curve before they take the rise up through towards Kamsa, and still in tandem nonetheless. It's still Tim Tramnitz who leads the way, Andrea Kimi Antonelli there in second as well, Kaz Havercourt in third, and certainly the time certainly favouring right now Antonelli, fastest in the first sector with a 29.8 as well, and showing all kinds of improvements. Tramnitz enlisting the purple third sector, but Antonelli has just literally taken the purple second sector, so he's starting to put the squeeze on Tim Tramnitz now. Is Antonelli, they're coming together. You just see them all going in tandem out of the KF bend, a little wide there as well, some of them taking a really wide line heading through this specific sector. You know, see the cars now make their climb. You see Adam Fitzgerald as well, currently being joined by the likes of Tom Levin in behind too. As you know, see the cars make their way down the straight once again. Still Tim Tramnitz in front. The gap still remains here, pretty solid. And looking on our screen, still Tim Tramnitz holds on to the purple third sector. Ramos has now taken the purple second now as we see Lorenzo Flusha this time looking to go down the inside, this time of the MP car. That of course being Kaz Havercourt. That is of course the car now that's looking to try and defend the position. It certainly is not MP, it is of course Van Amersfoort coming together this time, and certainly I think he did manage to get the move done as well. Flusha managing to hold his own and get the move done. We'll just see if we can get a scene of that as we can now see the cars making their way through the next left. And certainly, at least for now, it looks like he might have pulled that off. We will get an update on the timing screen as time goes on, but it's still Tim Tramnitz there. No, he didn't get it done. It is still Havercourt holding on to P3, Flusha in fourth. And there, of course, we're seeing Joshua Dufek as they make their way around the next right as well. There is, of course, Andrea Kimi Antonelli in second, trying to close the gap here on Tim Tramnitz. The gap now to within 0.5 of a second as they now sprint down towards the very, very tight left-hander heading out of Lakea now. Nose to tail still. Kaz Havercourt losing a little bit more time now. He's gone out yet by another 0.2 of a second, but the gap still fairly modest in between him and Flusha as well. So it's fairly healthy. He's holding on to somewhat of an advantage, but Kimi Antonelli certainly not being pressurised one bit for that second place, and if anything he's applying more pressure to Tim Tramnitz in front of him here as they make their way around the final corner once again, this time to commence yet another lap. We've got 12 minutes and 30 still to go, plus one lap. And, they'll sprint now in towards turn one of the Elf curve. There you see them all in a line in tandem, wheel to wheel. We got another battle further back as we can now see them go side by side, heading up through now towards the next right-hander as they now make the almighty climb through. That's Tangavello and Giusti coming together as well. Of course, Rafael Camara, we just saw in front of them, moving in towards turn one. But sensational moment. There's an RPM car coming into the pits, and that, of course, being the 65 of Santiago Ramos. So the weekend certainly has hit certainly troubling times after a sensational test one. And he's now found himself back into the garage. Are they retiring the car? It looks like they will be. So Santiago Ramos coming into the pits, and what looks to be a retirement here for Ramos. Real shame not to see him continue. Obviously he had a really good weekend up to this point, and certainly qualifying was a positive. And unfortunately now steps out of the car as we now rejoin the battle for the lead. Up at the front, still Tramnitz in front, Antonelli in second, Kaz Havercourt in third as well. Still an usurp there in third place. Flusha hasn't quite attacked him just yet. There's got plenty more fights happening further down. I believe the battle obviously involved in that of the two cars. Of course, we saw Victor Bernier of MP Motorsport. It certainly was an MP Motorsport coming together, and it was Rafael Camara putting the squeeze on as such as they came together. We're now seeing the cars come around the final quarter at New Holland once again to commence yet another lap. It's still Tramnitz, though, who leads the way now. We're coming down to the final 10 minutes mark in the final 11 minutes. There's Havercourt. They're, of course, followed by Flusha as well, as the cars once again run in tandem. There you see that of Bernier as well as that of Rafael Camara too. And, since obviously the restart, Camara is still currently sat in 12th. Dropped the place on where he started P11 in this grid order. So now they make their way through towards sector 2 now proper. As now seeing Tramnitz there, of course, there in the distance, Kaz Havercourt with Capietto in behind those two, with Flusha there in front of him. We're currently seeing on our screens as they make the ascent heading out of the Berth curve before then reaching Kamsa corner. Fast right-hander yet again. They'll put the squeeze on still as they head down towards Lakea. They whip through now, just literally on point, trying to find every which way to bring that delta down. Tramnitz still mastering his craft very, very well indeed, keeping the ever-present Prema in behind him. How long can he keep this up for, though? That is the big question. Heading up through towards Bank San Badel, and then down through towards the next right at Europe car before they then take the New Holland corner. There you just see there Andrea Kimi Antonelli a little tighter, heading out of Bank San Badel, trying to find that little bit extra out of the apex as they take the dip, heading down the hill. And once again using that momentum, and there you can see Camara once again on Bernier's back as they head down the straight. Bernier running very wide, heading out into the final corner as well. So Kamara might have a chance here. Is he struggling, Victor Bernier, as they head down? Antonelli as well, having a look in the mirrors of Travnitz. It's heating up with 9 minutes still to go. And the cars now certainly feeling a sense now of trouble. Bernier also in trouble now as he goes defensive down the inside. Kamara, who's trying to put the squeeze on here, heading down towards turn one. He did not quite get the move done, I don't think. Got very, very tight though. Bernier getting very ultra defensive and trying to keep that Prema from essentially taking that position away from him. There you can see there Antonelli. There's Havercourt, who's instantly brought himself back into the mix of this. Flusha not as close as what he was before. The gap now, remember, Havercourt was 1.9 seconds off the lead of Tim Travnitz. He's now brought that to within 0.6 of a second. Now, is this Travnitz essentially cooling the tyres here? Has that essentially brought Antonelli closer to him this time? Does Kimi go for the move here on the next lap? 8 minutes and 15 still to go, plus 1 lap. And as the time draws closer, it certainly feels like this race is getting tighter. Heading through now the Lakea bend once again. The Prema really starting to lurch forward. You can just see him there, tighter again out of Lakea. That could give him all the more delta. Heading through Bank Sambadel still. So now witnessing the drivers still proceed their way through Sector 3. I tell you what, it's getting very tense there in the garages. I'm sure that our race would like to see their man come out on top on this occasion. You know, see them make their way around, taking a really wide line, heading through New Holland corner, down the straight then out of turn 14 to commence yet another lap here. There's Antonelli, there's Havercourt, the gap still increasing. Flusha, who now sits nearly 4 seconds off the leader, as the cars now make their way in towards turn one. There's Kamara, who has in fact got ahead of Bernier as well, so Rafael Kamara ahead of MP Motorsports' Victor Bernier, and has managed to regain that 11th place that he lost obviously at the race start. So that is progress certainly in terms of where they left off after the safety car. Tim Travnitz though still holding on to P1. Antonelli trying to probe. Remember, these two will be swapped over essentially for when we go racing, obviously off the start of race 2. That would have taken qualifying one's results into account. That will mean that Tim Travnitz starts on pole for that one. The question is, can he hold off Antonelli? Will it be role reversal? Will it be Antonelli who gets the better start heading out in tomorrow's race? We'll have to wait and see, but still we've got a big fight in our hands here for race 1 with 6 minutes and 30 still to go. The RAce GP of Tim Travnitz has done a stellar job so far to control the pace, and Kimi once again tighter heading through Lakea. And the tail starting to come out on Tim Travnitz's car as well. He's really trying to hold everything together. Might be the case that he spun a little more of the tyres than what Kimi has at this point as they head their way down through the final sector again. And just look how close they are, nose to tail, very close, within half a second still. And Kimi could utilise the push to pass here if he has anything left of it. You know, see the cars that make their way through the final sector once again, chasing after the two leaders as they head down this next straight. There's Travnitz still marshalling a reasonable gap now. It has sprung out by 2/10, so Travnitz has found that little bit extra. Havercourt still in third as well. 1.4 off the lead advantage. They pulled another second off Lorenzo Flusha up at the front end. It's now out to 4 seconds. It was 3, only a matter of a number of laps to go. They certainly are advancing clear now. Kaz Havercourt putting in a really nice final stint here. Obviously coming towards the end of this race. We've got 5 minutes and 1 lap after this one. Travnitz still holding on to that lead. And it's still flittering around the half a second gap still. Obviously, like I said before, utilisation of the push to pass might be necessary. Obviously, if Kimi wants to try and take the lead here at this point. Remember, coming into this one on pole position, if there's going to be a time you want to take a race win, it's now. You don't want to have to do it starting necessarily from second. While he can perfectly well do that, obviously I'm sure he'll feel a lot better by taking wins in 2 successive races. But obviously Tim Travnitz showing all the promise that we've come to expect based on his glistening performance in qualifying, perfectly matching that of Antonelli this weekend. Not to mention taking that pole last time out when we went racing at Imola in qualifying 2. 3 out of the 4 qualifying sessions he has taken P1 here in this championship to get us off, or get himself off to a near stellar perfect start. As now we see more and more battles further down as well. And that of course being a fight between Lucas Medina and Tom Leben. That is right at the tail end of the field as we now see the cars come through the final corner there too. That's Rafael Camara. He's making his way down the straight. You just see the gap there and advancing even further out now. 4.2 seconds now between Flusha and Tramnitz. And now we're seeing them come together now. The RPM going extensively defensive here at this point. So you take the rise heading out to that next right-hander. That, of course, being that of Adam Fitzgerald. Looking to improve his position too as they make their way on through. Still Tramnitz out in front here. Holding on to a steady gap here at this point, obviously with Antonelli in behind, who has yet find himself in a position where he can tackle him side by side. Obviously, who he did see him go close, did have a look in the mirrors earlier on, but they've really gone clear here at this point. We have a yellow flag as well, a yellow flag here. So, yellow flag raised at turns 1 and 2. So an issue has occurred in the first sector. I can't see who's actually gone off, but I can see that Partyshev is at the back, but as to whether he's the one involved in the incident, I'm not quite sure. We have got a safety car now. A safety car has come out onto the circuit. We'll have to find out as to what reason that is, but here with 3 minutes still to go, plus the 1 lap, and we're under safety car conditions here. And Tim Tramnitz, Barley will hold on to the lead. Obviously, depending on how long this is, this could very extensively wear into the 2 minutes and 50 we have left, not to mention the additional lap as well. Tramnitz now makes his way down the straight now towards turn 1 yet again. You can just see the yellow flags being waved and unfurled by the stewards. And they're going to obviously bring the cars down to a steady pace, and there is the reason. And that is certainly Owen Tangavelu, who's come off there and unstuck. He is literally falling down the order. The Trident car has now since seen itself decrease down the timing tower. So that's the offending issue. Obviously, that leading towards the safety car. And Owen Tangavelu, after having a promising qualifying session, he was up in the top 12, qualified 12th on the grid after Group A and Group B, so he had a really good run, but unfortunately it's all come unstuck here in the closing stages of this race. And while the car doesn't look extensively damaged, it doesn't look like it's going to get running. Certainly nothing oh, maybe I was wrong. That suspension does look damaged. Close-up certainly does display that. Maybe a little bit of contact or something running side by side, who knows. I mean, obviously a big moment, and naturally now Tangavelu now seen himself drop down further and further down the order. And we can also confirm that Alexander Partyshev has stopped as well. He's out of the race. He went out a lap previous. So whether there was contact between the two, I'm not quite sure. But it does mean that both Kick Motorsport and Trident car are now out of the race. So there we have it, folks. Tim Tramnitz is still out in front with a minute still on the clock and counting. Still under the safety car conditions as now the yellow flags make their way around. Obviously, it's all dependent on how soon they can, to get a restart going. It does mean that they will need to clear the incident fairly quickly, but I think under the current circumstances, it's very likely they will finish behind the safety car. Tim Tramnitz could be on the cusp of having something that will surely right the wrong from yesterday. We, of course, alluded to the fact that he was fastest at Imola. And unfortunately, it all came unstuck for him in race 2 as well at Imola 2. And he'll come into this one, certainly with 25 seconds still remaining in our allotted time. And then we've got the 1 lap after the safety car now making its way down towards turn 1. Antonelli in pursuit as well, in behind as well. You've got Kaz Havercourt, yet once again enlisting a stellar visit here this time around with Lorenzo Flusha, Matteo Capietto further down in 5th too, with Joshua Dufek in 6th. Martinius Stenshorn as well, having a great race himself too. Obviously started down in 13th place, has since managed to near half his deficit. He's now up to 7th, and the highest performing rookie, extensively clear of Alessandro Giusti, who sits in 13th. So a wonderful race for Stenshorn. Of course, the winner of our very first race at Imola as well. So once again, a strong plethora of points going to the RHGP driver, who I'm sure will be delighted with that performance too. And Matthias Zagazzetta for RSGP in 14th, and he has gained from 22nd on the grid. So I'm sure he'll be absolutely thrilled. So all 3 RSGP drivers making very strong improvements off the back of where they started here in this race, and certainly they'll be pleased, and naturally coming into the weekend on 61 points and leading the championship ahead of Prema, who are a very strong outfit and have delivered many a great result, not to mention current champions in terms of introducing the likes of Dino Beganovic, who is now certainly staking his claim in the world of Formula 3. And obviously RSGP having a good trend of issuing great drivers as well. And alluded to the likes of Gabriel Bortoletto, who has since gone on to win Formula 3 races under his new tutelage. And also further down, Van Amersfoort, again, another strong weekend so far. Kaz Havercourt, ever the reliable hand, he is there on track and in P3, and does look to be standing on the podium as well. As we now see also the cars make their way through this next right. Still can confirm that the timer has come down, folks. They should, I would imagine, finish behind the safety car. As now Tim Tramnitz makes his way up through Bank Sambadel. Just keeping my eyes peeled as to what they decide to do. And certainly at this point, Antonelli in behind. Second place certainly is better than the DNF he had in race 2. Not quite the race win that perhaps he would be looking for. He'll have to wait a little longer to take his first Formula Regional European Championship win in this campaign in 2023. The safety car making its way around the track once again. And they'll cross the line and they'll commence the final lap here in this race at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, and it will finish behind the safety car as well. And Tim Tramnitz, after a stellar drive to keep Antonelli behind, obviously the prodding, he was certainly giving him a couple of looks towards the end. Did have to wonder whether there would be a coming together or certainly a battle between the pair. As we now take a look, we can see the cars make their way through turns one. Obviously here at this point, just steadying the cars, heading round through on the final lap. No need to risk anything at this point. Obviously, it's all a question of conservation. When, of course, we go racing tomorrow, just make sure that they bring the car home in one piece and get ready for another day's racing tomorrow. We've got a nice early start to bring you tomorrow, folks, as well. Race 2 starting at 13 minutes past 10, bringing you 30 minutes plus 1 lap of racing here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. And Tim Tramnitz certainly getting the weekend off the way he would have wanted. Speaking to him this weekend, he was thrilled with his performances in qualifying. As I said, 3 out of 4 in terms of group qualifying performances, taking the advantage away from Kimi Antonelli off the race start, who started on pole off the back of our qualifying session that we had earlier on at 2 o'clock this afternoon. And we'll now look to try and fend him off again when we go racing tomorrow morning when they meet on the front row still. But a stellar performance certainly from the likes of RPM, as I said, with Matteo Capietto certainly delivering for his team too. And how about the likes of Joshua Dufek, who has certainly risen to the occasion. Martinia Stenshawn as well doing exactly the same for RSGP. Nikhil Bora as well making his way up the field, 8th place now on this screen. And no doubt looking to try and get a little bit more. Obviously started P10, gained a couple of places. And the higher you finish, obviously the better the points you get. It's no secret. And I'm sure he'll look to try and continue that trend here at Barcelona. As they head round now, the final sector here on this occasion. The safety car will pull them round. And very shortly, we will, of course, head up towards the line. The safety car has pulled in. As now they head up towards the line now, and it will be Tim Tramnitz now who takes victory here at Barcelona. Antonelli comes home in 2nd. Havercourt finishes in 3rd. Lorenzo Flusha in 4th. Matteo Capietto in 5th. Joshua Dufek comes home in 6th, with Martinia Stenshawn coming home in 7th, as well as Nikhil Bora in 8th, as well as in 9th Micah Belov, as well as Lauren Van Hoopen, who finishes as well the last of the top 10. So there you go. Your race winner is Tim Tramnitz. 2nd place, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who started on pole, could not bring it home though in front, but still, nonetheless, he'll take 2nd place and a podium to boot, returning to the top step, bringing Prema closer and closer to RSGP up at the sharp end as well. Certainly looks like this could be a very strong tie-up between 2 great teams that have been so successful in the world of Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. Van Amersfoort also right up in the mix with Trident in 4th currently in the championship. They're going to look to bring themselves closer. No doubt Nikhil Bora's results will add some much needed points to their journey too. Joshua Dufek though, what a race certainly from him to raise himself forward from P8. He now finishes as well higher up in P6, gaining a couple of places and finishing ahead of Martini Stenchorn. But nevertheless, a fantastic battle, a fantastic fight. Obviously, Lorenzo Flusha finishing where he started in 4th as well will give some additional points to Prema as well. And real shame as well for RPM to lose the likes of Santiago Ramos, who has been stellar all weekend. But the crowds there giving the drivers a clap as they make their way through the final sectors. And Antonelli, I'm sure, will be back fighting tomorrow as we see the two protagonists up at the top end once again dance around Barcelona when we go racing tomorrow morning. And can Kaz Havercourt throw himself in the mix on that one? Obviously no stranger to taking race wins. He did it, of course, last time. So why can't he do it again? That's for sure. And we could yet see more comings together as well, much like what we saw. Obviously, terrible shame for the MP Motorsport team, where the red flag was brought out. Delano Van Toff and Sami Megatunif essentially being brought together. And it did lead to them, obviously, bowing out 2 cars in that point during the race. Victor Bernier had his own fun and games as well with the battles with Rafael Camara. As now we see them come into Parc Ferme. And Andrea Kimi Antonelli in 2nd. Kaz Havercourt lifting himself out of the cockpit. He's going to be thrilled with his superb performance here. Taking 3rd place in the opening round of the season. Shrugs his shoulders. That was okay, he says. It's points on the table, and certainly Van Amersfoort would be pleased that that consistency once again still remains for Kaz Havercourt. Danielle Gilles, team boss, comes in and gives him a hug as well. She, of course, striving to drive the team forward, as she has done so brilliantly. Out of the car as well, Tim Tramnitz. This will be certainly one that I'm sure he will remember. A first win this season for Tim Tramnitz. And despite it finishing under the safety car near enough, nonetheless, he will, I'm sure, take stock in that and say that's justice for you after a difficult session last time at Imola. He hugs his team. Great delight, his father as well. Great to see them obviously in the mix. And obviously enjoying a tremendous performance. Tim Tramnitz, what a superstar. He's delivered a great performance here for RHGP. And alongside him as well, Andrea Kimi Antonelli. No doubt we'll see him back at the sharp end again tomorrow morning as well. But the rain certainly did not disturb us. We certainly didn't have any troubling conditions here in today's race, which was on a plus great to see. I'm sure some of the drivers would have liked to have seen a rain-soaked track in order to just, I suppose, mix things up at the sharp end. But still, we witnessed a great, certainly, battle between two fantastic talents here in the world of Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. And no doubt we'll see it come and crescendo once again, I'm sure. But Catalonia, despite it being slightly darker now as the night draws in here past 6 o'clock, we will, of course, see it. In fact, it's now 7 o'clock local time now. And we will be witnessing yet more racing tomorrow too. But a stellar performance, certainly a great battle. And I'm sure we'll see many more of them. And will we see Martini Stenchorn once again certainly go forwards, onwards and upwards when, of course, we battle it out later on this weekend. Of course, plenty more to come. As I said before, more races here in the offing. But we hope you all enjoyed it, folks. It's been a privilege to certainly bring you all this action. Certainly Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine are going to be bringing all the action. We're going to be bringing you the podiums as well from today's race. So sit tight and hang on to your hats. Obviously, the prize giving needs to be issued as we now wait for the drivers to make their way out. And no doubt there's going to be some last-minute demonstrations there behind the scenes as they await to head to their steps. And no less, there's going to be a big smile on the face of Tim Tramnitz, lifting, obviously, the trophies aloft at this point as well. But certainly round 2, still very much early days in this championship. Of course, plenty of races still to come on the calendar. Hungary comes up after this one as well. And that'll be another tightly contested affair, given the fact the circuit is relatively snug. A lot of them call it the Monaco without walls circuit, but nevertheless, when you've got cars such as this that are obviously, you know, narrow enough to run wheel to wheel, you can of course come together. Of course, you've got that straight heading in towards turn one. Opportunities are plenty to utilize the push to pass, as we now await obviously the drivers to make their way out onto the podiums. Now there you can see it all the hoardings that will soon be held with images of drivers that have just taken to the circuit. But Tim Tramnett's taking his first win of the season, and no less will be looking to try and pursue this, as surely a record has yet to claim a win in this championship. Of course, last season hasn't had that achievement just yet, so I'm sure this one is going to taste very, very good indeed. As we now see some activity up on the podium. And any moment now we will have the presentation to the drivers as well. But a fantastic fight, a fantastic battle. And heading up onto the podium now. There we can see them. Kaz Havercourt up into third, standing tall on the third place of the podium. And he will also be joined by Andrea Kimi Antonelli, the Italian, who has come here for his first season. A very decent start to the weekend. Obviously would have probably liked to take the win off the back of taking pole, but also now Tim Tramnett will stand tall, your race winner here this season. And just look at the smile on his face. He is absolutely thrilled. First race win in this championship, first race win this season to boot as well. And of course, the winning team, R-Race GP, stands tall alongside him as well. Delight all round at R-Race. And we also have the winning rookie driver, that of course being Martinius Stenshorn as well, who stands alongside Kimi Antonelli, the winning rookie. As we now have the trophy presentations as well. So we've got first of all, the third place driver claiming the trophy. That, of course, being Kaz Havercourt of Van Amersfoort Racing. And now being presented as well with the trophy to the second place driver. That is, of course, Andrea Kimi Antonelli. And that, of course, another one to add to his locker as well. No doubt chasing for bigger honours. And the final trophy to the race winner, Tim Tramnett. One that he will, I am sure, savour. He will lift this one aloft. He will, of course, be showing that finger number one. He is number one here today. And a fantastic way for him to end the season. R-Race GP as well celebrating another win to add to their locker as well. Lifting it high. Pride, no doubt, running in abundance in that team right now. As we also await the trophy for the winning rookie. That, of course, being Martinius Stenshorn. No stranger to race wins this season. Takes the winning rookies trophy once again. After scoring that feat, not only that, but doing it overall as well in round one at Imola. He can now add this one to his list too. But a proud moment for the drivers. We have the national anthem. Well, there we are, folks. That is the end of race one here at Barcelona. Join us tomorrow when we go racing once again here. Race two, join us, of course, at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. where we'll go racing here for another 30 minutes plus one lap here in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, man.